Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Utterly Geek Dissects. Today we are going to be covering wonderful and by God we will be coming to the wonderful game that is God of War from this past year. We have discussed about it many times with me and Steve all throughout I guess every time whenever we've been doing what we've been up to. And then also like heavily following the news whenever there's been updates or events or whatever going on. But yeah, man, I think it was about time. It was about time we needed to fucking do a goddamn Dissects because I think between you and I, like, off screen, we always like kept talking about it, and it was just like I eventually thought, fucking why we have Dissects? Like we have one episode. Like what the fuck? Like why don't we need to do more episodes of this thing? Yeah. Like definitely. why don't do goddamn God of War? Yeah. And so here we are. Welcome. So to kind of, I guess let's do a little background as to like, I don't know how far we've come with the God of War games. Like I know I started it, like the original one, PS2, when it first came out. I don't even know how I came across it. I think it was just like out of curiosity. I was just like, oh, what's this game? And then kind of like gave it a shot. Didn't really know much about it. I mean, was the internet even? I think the internet was a thing then, right? Like PS2 era. Yeah. Maybe very faintly, but
yeah. I mean, the internet wasn't like the huge presence that it is now, but yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah. So I think I don't even know if it was like word of mouth or anything, but it was just one of those things I just came across and was like, oh, okay, let me check out this game. And then next thing I knew, I was like, holy shit, this game is like really good and really fun. And that's like I just got into that fucking series and played 1, 2, and 3, and I played Ghost of Sparta, but I didn't play Ascension, which was the second PSP game. But I kind of skipped it because at that point, that's when like the internet was like really well known, and like people were saying like, it's all right of a game. Like it's more God of War if you want God of War, but at that point, I was kind of like already, I was done with it. Like, yeah, I was like, I mean, it's still more of the same, and like, I mean, yeah, I like the lore of God of War, but it's still more or less just the same of what it is. And if they just wanted to get more Greek gods in there, it's like, yeah, but I've already been doing that for the last like 4 games, so why do I need to have it for a 5th time? So, yeah, and I stopped playing it, and then then this one got announced and was like, it was when it got announced, I thought it was one of those things where it was like, holy shit, I thought they were done. Like, I thought it was just like, it was not like they did Ascension. They were like, all right, you know what? We bled this thing dry. We're done with it. Like, there's nothing more to tell. So I was like, oh, okay. I thought this was done. So when they announced it at E3, like fucking, what was it? 2016? Maybe 15? One of those.
One of those years.
Yeah, and it was just like, holy shit. Like, man, I watched that E3 live, and when I saw that footage of Kratos stepping out of the fucking shadows in the very beginning, I actually leapt out of my seat and fucking was like cheering and my girlfriend, like, she, like, at the time she didn't know anything about God of War. So we started a new playthrough, and like I was like, okay, let me show you this game, this series. And but she saw me like jumping up, being like, holy fuck yeah, like it's fucking God of War, like all this shit. And she watched the whole video with me, and she was like, oh, this looks cool. But I was like, no. I was like, we'll do a playthrough. So I fucking ordered like the saga and replay through all those games again. And yeah, it was just like, oh god, man, like I can't fucking wait for this. And then once my girlfriend finally understood, like, oh, okay, this is the game, and then she rewatched the trailers with me, she was like, okay, yeah, I'm more like, this is tonally so different.
Yeah.
Like I'm on board with this thing.
Yeah, I was when they first announced it and I saw it, I was like, oh shit. I felt the same way. I was like, I didn't think that they were going to be doing any more God of Wars. I thought, oh, that franchise is, they milked it dry. What else can they do? But when that trailer came out and I saw like the shift, I was like, okay, now it's a modern style Souls-esque type game. And
Yeah.
like I was super stoked when I saw that. I was just like, all right, I'm ready. Bring it on.
So give us, what about some background about you? Like, how did you get introduced into the God of War franchise?
I started with the first game, but it wasn't like when it first came out. It probably was out for a little bit. I think the second game had come out and it was getting like pretty solid reviews. And I was like, okay, let me pick these games up. So I picked them both up, and I think I played through the first one in like a couple days, and then the second one the same, just like binge played them, and then I was hooked. And the third one, I fucking love the third one. I'd never played the PSP ones though, so never got around to it. I knew that they were okay, but I just was like, I just stayed away.
The PSP ones were kind of like, they gave more backstory for Kratos, at least from what I remember from playing Ghost of Sparta. Like, it was just like, it was like they wanted to dive more into Kratos as a character.
Okay.
But for what they already had, like for the tone of the previous set of games, that was kind of difficult to do. I feel like. Whereas like this one, the newest one, was like, holy shit. Like it didn't give you that emotion of I want to know more. It was just like, oh, there's more lore about this character that's like, as far as we know, he's just a guy who just fucking goes around and kills gods. Like that's all we know about him, and that's all we care about. And like, yeah, he's got a revenge story, but it's like he already took care of that and then just kept going on an endless rage of killing things.
Yeah.
So it's like, how could you really get on an emotional level with him?
Yeah.
That's like, for something that's on like the PSP games.
Yeah, and maybe those were like where they were like, hey, we need to, since they probably didn't like perform so well with the audience, they were probably just like, hey, we need to, if we're going to keep this franchise going, we got to take a step back and take it in a little bit of a different direction, and
totally
change Kratos' character. I mean, keep Kratos the same guy, but change like his motive a little bit, and I think that's where they kick off with God of War. It's the same old Kratos, but the motive is a little bit different. So
yeah, I feel like when they pitched this, it was just like, what if Kratos had a son? Fucking, where do we go from here? Like, who is this son? Like, where did he come from? Like, it was just like, it raises all these questions, and it's like, holy shit, like this could change of like how he is as a character.
Yeah.
And just his motives, and just with his experience from the previous titles, which, I mean, that's what we get. We'll go more into that when we get to talk about the story. Which, by the way, I probably should have prefaced this like before we started doing the podcast. Fucking spoilers! Like, we're gonna go spoiler crazy with this fucking game. So if you haven't played God of War, A, what the fuck is wrong with you? Go play it.
Darren.
Darren. And B, it's okay. I sent it to him, actually.
Okay.
We're doing a trade-off.
Nice.
I sent him God of War. He's giving me Nier. So
cool.
We're doing a trade-off on that.
Nice.
Which he's already like, I want to do Dissects for that. And I'm like, well, fucking, all right, let me play the game first, okay? Like, then we'll get there. But yeah, the two, like, spoilers. So yeah. But yeah, it's just, fuck, man. So yeah, let's go into to story, I guess. While we're at it, yeah, it's just like that first initial trailer. It was like, I guess I had the same reaction as everyone else. It was like, oh my god, like he has a son now. How and when and how much time has gone by? Like, because like God of War 3 ends with Kratos, where he's on Mount Olympus, and he gets stabbed by Zeus, but at the end of the credits, you see that there's a blood trail that goes off the side of the Mount Olympus. So it's like, oh shit, okay, so Kratos isn't dead. So it's like, and that's kind of where it's like, well, where do they? I guess it was kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, he's still alive, but maybe it's like, who fucking knows what he's up to? And but I guess that can leave it up to people where it's like, okay, yeah, he's alive, but whatever. Like, sure, he's just out there now. So if they ended it with that, it's like, okay, well, he's out in the world and cool.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like, he actually survived and didn't die. So who knows if and when he'll ever come back. And so, yeah, I think that with him, with that E3 trailer, with him with his son, with Atreus, it was just like, oh, fuck. Oh, my God. Like, he's a father now. And, like, how... Like, this isn't the same Kratos that we've grown up with. Like, he's aged like we did, where it's like we grew up and we gained experience and we know, like, sometimes the world isn't always so great. So it's like, whereas Atreus is this character that is still new to the world and doesn't understand a lot of things and is just like, it's a fucking child. It's like they don't know better. It's like they're just like, oh, okay, well, they think everything is happy and fun and great. Where it's like Kratos is that like, no, man, I've fucking seen some shit.
Yeah. I think they did they understood where their audience was at, and they were like, okay, our audience are probably going to be like 30 to 40 years old with this game, because those are the people who grew up with this game. So now, like, we're going to create a more, I don't know, just like a father figure type character with Kratos, and I think he's a good father figure, even though, like, he's not the perfect father figure because he obviously has his issues, but he's a good, like, strong father figure character, and it's just like a really different side of Kratos, although it's the same angry yelling Kratos that we've seen before. It's just a little bit of a different side of Kratos, and it's just like it's just really fucking good. I love Kratos even more than I ever loved him in any other game. Like, just much fucking depth to his character in this game.
Yeah, like it's just it's like, it's I guess thinking of it as similar to movies where there's like different iterations of characters that are playing certain characters. Like, say for example, the Joker in the Batman franchise. Like, it's always like, sometimes when there's certain actors that have a different take on it, it's just like, no, I prefer that one now. Like, that one is the one that fucking nailed the role, and that's the one I'm always going to be like, when I think of that character, that's the version I'm always going to be thinking of. And for me, this was what that was with Kratos, where it was like, I look at previous Kratos now, and I'm just like, fucking whatever. Like, he had to go through the whole, like, his whole process of revenge and killing all the gods and all that, and being betrayed and being angry with it. But, like, dude, like, this one just has so much more depth now that I was just like, I totally prefer this Kratos, because he still accepts a lot of, like, what happens, whether if it's his fault or Atreus' fault, and, like, he kind of owns up to it. Like, he knows when to recognize when he's wrong, that he's not always right, or when he's surprised, like, but he still takes it in stride. And I think that's just like, that's just so well written for that character, just to have that complete shift, because it was just like everything was just shifted with this game, like, just not the gameplay and the tone, but like just Kratos as a character himself. because like really he's like the only character that considers this game a God of War game.
Yeah.
Because like everything else is brand new. So
yeah.
But because it's so well done with him, and it's just like exactly as you were saying, like, you know, we've grew up with those games, and now that we're older and wiser, maybe, and so it's like, yeah, and so it's like we're able to kind of like connect with that like easily, because it's like, yeah, you know, we were fucking when we played the original God of War games, we were angry teenagers, fucking just want to just like, you know,
destroy everything.
Destroy shit, blow shit up, you know, like all these things. It's just like, you know, but now that we've grown up, it's like, man, we know how to be right to the point with a lot of things, and just be, you know, I say right to the point as I'm like struggling as what my point is, but there it is. It's just so well done just for that character alone.
Yeah. And I think, like, overall, the story is just so fucking good in this game, because just everything flows so well. Every moment, they're always building the lore, and they're always, like, adding a little bit. And you can read into it. You don't have to. They do a good job explaining it, like, on the boat rides and stuff like that. So you don't really have to, you know, you don't really have to struggle to really explore the world of these new gods that they're talking about. You know, they leeway into it really well, and it's just like, I don't know, just the way the execution of the story is just spot on. Like, it's just fucking, there's no like waning moment of like, I wasn't really ever bored playing this game. Like, I was just they just keep you fucking entertained, and it's a lot of just story beats where they're just like, hey, like, and it's just even the moments that you would think would be boring, like riding in the boat, become really interesting.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, hey, I don't want to stop this story. Let's keep fucking riding around a little bit, and let's listen to this story. Let's finish it out, and then let's dock. You know, so
the level of amount of detail that they went with the boat rides and the stories, like, it's kind of surprising to me, because, you know, after I read the art book for it, I mean, and this is like, honestly, this is the first game in a long time that I was like, I want to know everything of how this game was made. Like, I want to know the ins and outs and like the whole thought and creative process and all this. So anyway, so reading the art book, that was one of the challenges when they wanted to do the Norse mythology, was like, they tried to research it to like find whether if there was like maybe documented artwork somewhere that had existed previously, or I mean, you know, we have all this knowledge of different stories, but there's nothing that's like an actual artistical representation of those stories. So that was really challenging for the team, but it was also like, it gave them tons of creative freedom to just be like, man, we can, so long as we just kind of keep the stories together and cohesive, like, we can create things however we want, and it would still make sense within this fucking game. So that's what was kind of interesting to me, was that with where this was, they were kind of able to, like, with the stories and everything, it's just like, yeah, there is a lot to it, but there's still also a lot that's like missing. But they were able to kind of fill those gaps in with this game, and with the stories especially. Like, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, I feel like a lot of those, there's so many moments where on the boat ride I would have been like, man, this is fucking boring. But because it's like, I found myself more times staying on the boat, because it's like, man, I just want to hear the rest of the story, just because it's like, I want to know, like, I want to know all of this fucking lore. And it's done just so well. Just the performance with Mimir and how he's telling it. He really keeps you in there. And I also love the little details of like, if you get off the boat mid-story or whatever, they'll be like, all right, we'll pick this up later, whatever, it's cool. And then, you know, you go off and you go fight other things. And even with just like when you come back and it's like, okay, let's tell the rest of the story, it's like, they kind of refresh your memory a little bit of like, oh, this was the story I was telling you, and it's not just like, oh, it just picks up the next line. Like, it still does that, but the like phrase before they continue telling the story is like, oh, hey, by the way, we were talking about this story, let's find out more, and then it continues. And it's so seamless in how it's done, and I fucking love that.
And I mean, everything with it, just like, since there's really no cuts or anything like that, it like just all of the seamlessness works perfectly, you know. So like, even when you're running through the portals, like they take that time to also tell the stories as well, you know. So it's like all these little moments where you could be like, okay, I fucking hate doing this, like, God, this is so like, it's almost like the time when like you play like Wind Waker or something and you're sailing around, you're just like, Jesus Christ, how long am I gonna fucking sail around this boat for? But this game, it's like you don't care because you're intrigued in the stories that they're telling you, and you're like, they just keep you engaged, so there's no like lull moments. And I really appreciate that they did that, like, and it really shows that they cared about their game and they care about keeping true to the lore, even though they're telling their own like story with it. They want to keep true to the backstory of the lore, and they want to like actually educate everybody about it, you know. And it's I really appreciate that they did that.
Yeah, because it was like they shit, I'm trying to remember your point about with like the lore and everything. Because like the portal segments, like those are like smaller little stories, but then it was like they saved the really big chunks of lore for the boat rides. Yeah. Because I noticed that because like whenever you do, because like, you know, the portal time is like your game is loading and it's just loading you to the next section, so it's obviously gonna be a little bit quicker than doing a boat ride from point A to point B, because, you know, you don't know how long you're going to be on that boat. So they just tell you a long tale, whereas like those portal segments is like a lot shorter. It's just like, it's almost like a hey, did you know kind of thing. Yeah. Like little stories that it tells you during the little portal segments. Yeah. And then everything else is like, oh, okay, like, let me tell you the tale of this certain character within this realm. Or whatever. And yeah, so well fucking done. So now we've talked about the fucking Norse mythology and everything. The overall story of the game itself. This game, just like you said, just the pacing, but not just with like how the lore was presented, but just I think the pacing of how everything was revealed and each little story beat was very well implemented, and I think it definitely did want me to keep playing more, because there was good times where it's like, okay, I'm ready to do the next story beat because I want to find out what happens, but there was also times where it's like, oh, there's still like side quests that I can do, but it's still presenting the lore to me in this world that I'm okay with. Like, I'm okay with still doing the side shit, and it still somehow ties into like the main storyline somehow. And it's like, it doesn't feel like it's a side quest. It's just like, yeah, we're stopping to do this thing, but we still have this like overall objective, which I know, like, you know, at the beginning Kratos is like, fucking don't help these people. Who gives a shit? Like, these people don't mean anything, whatever. Like, we still have our main task at hand or whatever. And Atreus is like, you know, the entire time he's like, well, let's help them, whatever. Because, you know, he's, as Kratos keeps telling him, he's naive and doesn't know better. And Atreus kind of learns with that, like some of the spirits that are like, oh, help me so I can be free. And then Kratos is like, fucking whatever, man. He's fucking dead. What does it matter? He doesn't need to be free. Yeah. And, but then, you know, like, as you do it, you get tricked or you get nothing out of it. And then Atreus is like, oh, okay. I guess nothing happened. So, yeah. So it's kind of like there's still character development that's in the side quest that still involves the main storyline. And it never, at any point, like you said, it never felt like it was like boring or just the pacing seemed weird. It all felt really interconnected very well.
Yeah.
With what was going on within the game. Yeah, I'll let you speak your segment because the next point I want to get is like closer to like mid game and end and whatever.
Yeah, and I just feel even with the side quests, like you said, they didn't feel like you didn't have to do them, but they didn't feel unnecessary because they do add to the characters and they develop the story a little bit more. And I think it works with Kratos because he's saying, "Oh, we shouldn't help these people," but then he's doing it, which is kind of his MO now in this game, where he basically says fuck everybody, but he still helps everybody. And I mean,
you're controlling him, so it's kind of like, even if he's like fuck it, I don't want to do it,
don't
it's
have
like
to.
well fuck you, I'm going to
but
anyway, because
since you're controlling it. But it works with his character that they're trying to create, because he is this guy who's like, well, I'm focused on myself and my son getting to the top of this mountain, and
doesn't trust anyone.
He doesn't trust anybody, but there's still something in him now that I think it adds to that now that I'm a father, and I want to show my son the world and help him to understand what this world is about and help him to understand what's the right thing to do, because he did keep it a secret from his son that he was a god, or half god, and so his son's discovering more and more about his father and being like, where the fuck did you come from, dude? Like, how are you doing all of this crazy shit? That, like, how are you beating the fuck out of these gods, like just stuff like that, and it just builds. But I think, even with the side stories, they just keep building Kratos' character, and you love him even more because he's that guy who's just he's like the angry dad, the lovable angry dad father figure. You're just like, God, he's so good. He's such a good character. But yeah,
you just reminded me of, I love those little segments whenever Kratos is like pushing something huge or whatever, and he's like, and Atreus is like, is that heavy? And he's like, yes. And that's it. Like, yes, doesn't explain, doesn't go into detail, just fucking yes, period. Now stop talking. I gotta fucking do this. Like, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
God, yeah. And some of just being that angry father figure, that was actually one of the things that I found out when I went to the local game con that happened here, because they had the cast, and I went to one of their panels, and Christopher Judge, who was the voice of Kratos, who obviously does a fucking great job.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying he was able to connect with Kratos so well was because his time when he was well known in Stargate, he kind of like, he didn't intend it, but he kind of like left a lot of his family out of his work. Mm-hmm. and he all he focused on was just doing work, and so he didn't really pay much attention to his family, and he felt like, especially with his kids, like he felt like he wasn't really being a good dad. Like, he was just kind of just doing his own thing and just being like, oh, whatever, like, I gotta fucking be ready for my next thing. So he was able to, once he found out about like who Kratos was and like what's his whole backstory, it was just like he was able to connect with him to understand that like this game was kind of like his swan song to his kids, to mm-hmm. be like, to apologize for not being there and for basically being like Kratos, where he just was doing his own thing and didn't care about anyone else and just wanted to do his own tasks by himself and didn't want help and didn't care about anyone else but himself. Like, all these things, it was just like he was able to connect with him, and that's why I think like that's why he just does such a fucking phenomenal job mm-hmm. as him. And you really feel that all throughout the game, where Kratos is just like, it's just that development where eventually he doesn't just see his son as just some kind of shadow, but more of someone who can help him as an ally in battle, and be able to rely on him and trust him and all these things, and know that he can trust his son to help him when he needs it. Mm-hmm. And Yeah, and it was kind of really amazing just to hear that coming from him, like that was like kind of something that was going on behind the scenes, and I was just like, damn man, that's pretty harsh, but like, you know, at the same time, it's fucking great that he was able to kind of like understand that and like kind of take that out of his voice acting and use that as part of to get really into the character, and that's why I think it's just like it's so well fucking done.
Yeah. I mean, that's where a lot of the most great performances come from, is someone experienced something that they can use. You know, they understand that they're not the character, but they have an experience that they can say, hey, this is close to this, so I'm going to understand how Kratos feels, but use my emotion on how I felt during that time and how I feel now about it. You know, and that's how great characters are done. Yeah, he did it. He is fucking amazing, like absolutely amazing as Kratos.
Yeah, and you know, he was saying how when he first started, he had no idea what he was getting himself into. He just kind of like, they just sent him. They didn't even tell him it was like a God of War game or a video game in general. They just like invited him. And this is where it's kind of weird, because I know there's like a lot of ups and downs in the video game industry where it's like they don't tell who the person that they're playing. So like a lot of voice actors have issues of like what they're doing. But his first role when he got in there after Santa Monica brought him in, well, no, they said it was just Sony. Like they didn't say Santa Monica Studios. They said just Sony was like on the invite. And so he went into this room and he saw a kid there, and he was like, what? So it was him and the voice actor for Atreus, and he was just like, okay, so I gotta act out this scene with this kid. Sure. Like, I don't know what's going on. You know, and they eventually, you know, found out that it was fucking God of War, and he was doing the whole, he was doing the E3 presentation and all that, and he was performing that whole segment. So that's when he found out about it. Like, oh shit, all right, so I'm part of this video game now. And it was like the first time he's ever done it. Like a lot of the voice actors, like was their first time doing a video game. Mostly Kratos, Atreus, and Freya were like the three that they've like never done video games before, and you know, so they thought it was kind of weird and interesting, but they were like, after they did it and they were done, they were like, man, that was fucking awesome. But I think a lot of it too was because, similar to Uncharted, they did more than just sit in the booth and then, you know, voice out their lines. Like they actually were walking around in the mocap suits and actually performing the segments and everything, so that way it sounded natural whenever they said anything or performing their segments. And I always think that's just like, that's such a fucking make or break for a performance in a video game. It's just like it's changed so much where games no longer are just voice recorded in a fucking booth and people are like, cool, that's it, we're done.
Yeah,
that's it. That's how you get games like fucking, I don't know, I'm thinking of oh Christ, what's the zombie arcade game?
House of the Dead.
House of the Dead. That's how you get shit like that, it's like,
don't come. Like just really badly delivered lines. Yeah. Prepare for the final battle.
Like shit like that.
So
it's like,
stupid.
oh my god. I mean, you know, it's a fucking arcade game, so whatever, it's fine because it's just so corny. But for something like this where it's like you're gonna be investing time in it, like it's just so fucking good.
And I think we should kind of get into like the mocap and stuff, because I think like that shit must have been really difficult because the game, they wanted to do it all like a seamless one take. Like it looks like it's all done in one take. So a lot of those mocap scenes must have been like pretty arduous, as like going around and trying, because I'm sure they tried to do it all in one take when they were filming these people. I haven't read about it, but I'm pretty sure that they're trying to do these crazy scenes in one take, and like that had to be fucking rough and a lot of work, and that like, and it comes out beautiful in the game. Like those, all the cinematic scenes are so fucking good. Like, and just the fact that they move seamlessly is so perfect for that game. Like, when you are running and it just keeps the scene going and moving around, it's just so fucking awesome, and it keeps that emotion flowing, you know. And
they're always able to get the right angles for everything.
Yeah.
At the right times when it's needed, like all that. Like they're
yeah.
That was definitely one of the most impressive things for that game.
Oh yeah.
Because like a lot of, again, going back to like what I was listening to, a lot of like the background of how it was made and everything. Corey was saying like oh yeah, he's like a lot of God of War, the older God of War games, like they had a lot of times the camera was just kind of there, and it zoomed in or backed out or whatever, like during a lot of segments, and there was a lot of segments where it just was, the camera was seamless, but they just wanted to push that further.
Yeah.
Because there still was like, you know, you run into a room and then it'll like hard cut to like a full on CGI like cinematic or something, or maybe like, you know, it's presenting the next story beat or something. Whereas this was just like all part of it.
Yeah.
And had that seamless fucking transitions between cutscene and gameplay that just it was next level, definitely.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely next level.
Because there's a lot of games like Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5 that did similar, but they didn't have, it was something about it that just didn't have that constant feel of it being a one shot kind of thing. And I think mostly that's probably because a lot of times with like the Metal Gear games, you're picking missions, especially Metal Gear Solid 5. They tried to do the whole like, oh, it's one shot, but it's also like there's sections where you're selecting your next mission and there's a loading screen and there's all these things, whereas like this game is just like it's all being done in the background. You have no fucking idea of when it's happening, but it's happening. It's like you can only assume it's happening all the fucking time because like
I mean,
the game is just constantly loading.
If you never die in that game, you never experience a cut. So that would be pretty amazing. But yeah, like for me, since I'm like so into film and stuff like this, that really like played a huge role into why I love this game so much. Just being able to sit there and it to feel like just a well-directed movie. Like the moment I knew it was amazing was just, it was pretty much right off the bat where like the camera kind of like he's like they're burning his wife or whatever, and the camera like follows him back into the house, and it like moves around in these awkward like movements to get into the right spots at the right time. So it's like going in, waiting for him to like open the door, and then pushing through, and it's just so fucking good. And it just like kind of like goes around and spins around the characters and stuff like that, and then trails back behind them, like back outside. And it's just like that shit is just, when like to make that so seamless and look so good is, I really respect anyone who takes the time to do that, because that's got to be some hard fucking choreography work, you know. So yeah,
really.
And then
exactly as you say, like, because a lot of like the awkward movements, at least as far as like a camera, like it's where it's almost like a weird mesh between seeming like someone is there to record it, but there's also times where it's like it's got to break that barrier and be like, all right, it's a fucking video game, like we just need to get the angle that we need, so that way it's properly represented. Fucking whatever, just have the camera really rush up to the next spot, so that way it's like it works well. And
I think doing that, they knew that like having that one shot flow so well, it makes you, it keeps you invested in the story. Like it doesn't, there's no like weird cuts or breaks to like be like, ooh, that was a little awkward, you know, and kind of break you out of it. It doesn't do that. You're investing yourself into this world, and you want to just keep going and flowing with this world. And that, I think it just plays so much with the game, and it's just so fucking good.
Let's talk about music. How good this fucking soundtrack is.
Seriously.
Oh my god. Like I mean probably Doom was the last soundtrack that I really listened to a lot to, but God of War has fucking surpassed how many times I've listened to a lot of the tracks, and especially some of the more emotional tracks. Like the first big moment for me while playing the game that I was like, the music is phenomenal in this game, was the opening moment when they were burning the mother and they were gathering her ashes and everything. Like that whole segment of that cinematic when that was happening, that was when I was just like, this music's really good. Like far beyond like anything that I've listened to in a long time.
I mean, it evokes a lot of emotion in the perfect spots, and it is like, I mean, just sitting down and listening to it in your room is fucking amazing, you know? Like, it's just it's a great experience. Yeah, the music is fucking phenomenal.
And like, not just those emotional moments, but like also like all the action scenes as well. Like the action moments is like, and exactly as you said, I've listened to it so many times that like I know from the music when there are certain story beats within the game, because I fucking listened to it and I played it enough times that I know where everything is. So but even like all the fucking combat is like, it's so like just original, and it's like heavy hitting in every way. And I think like there's a lot of games that you would think would have a similar soundtrack, you know, like maybe The Witcher or something, but I think they did a good job of making it so that it feels like God of War, and it doesn't feel like just generic like adventure like fantasy music. It's very distinct. It's super distinct.
It is very distinct, and I think like you said, like comparing, I mean, the soundtracks are completely different, but comparing it to the Doom soundtrack, that's how the Doom soundtrack feels as well, where it's like so distinctly Doom that you will never mistake those songs for anything else. And I think like with even with the God of War being like super fantasy and stuff, you'll never mistake this music for being like Lord of the Rings or something like that. You know, it's got its own vibe, and yeah, like that. I think that's really hard to do, and especially in that genre, because you're creating these kind of like soundscapes, and usually they do these fantasy movies and games start to feel collectively the same, but I think they did a good job of making that feel completely different, but having that fantasy sound and God of War sound.
I kind of realized I kind of wanted to keep talking about certain story beats in that game, but we'll kind of tie it in with music, because some of the biggest story beats of that game that tied with the music so well, some that I can immediately think of, two parts. One is when Atreus realizes that he's a god, because the music then changes where it's kind of focusing more on Atreus being an asshole, kind of. And then kind of like closer to the end, once they complete their task and they get on top of the mountain, they release the ashes and everything. And like they do like a callback of the mother's theme as they're doing it, and like fucking one thing I gotta give them props for, going back also with gameplay, is that I have never, and it's been a long while, I think probably the last game that made me think like, wow, this is really heavy hitting with the controls was Brothers, Tale of Two Sons. Was when Atreus was like going rogue and he was like, no, I'm a god, fuck you, like I'm not gonna listen to you, why do I need to listen to you? And it was just like, you're in combat and he's fucking doing his own thing, like he's firing off arrows when you're not pushing the button for it, and like there are times if you do push the button, like Atreus just straight up says no. or and I was like, fucking what? Excuse me?
And I mean, he's really important to the combat too, so it's like,
Yeah.
When he
Like,
was
'cause
doing that, I was
because
like,
you gotta keep the
"Fuck."
flow going. Yeah. Yeah, because there are like so many times where it's like, oh, I need to stun this guy so then I can like bash him or anything.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that.
Shit.
Fuck you. No. And like he was using abilities too. Like he was fucking using my crow's ability, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like why you like shit like that? And that's so well executed because it's just like that's just it made sense for it at that point.
Yeah, and I really love that story beat in general, just because, like, how I feel that they did a good job of making it feel like how a kid who just found out he's a god would feel. He'd be like, fuck the world, I'm a god, and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And that's kind of what they did. I mean, you start to like be like, oh, this little motherfucker, and they just do such a good job with that, you know. And I really like how they handled Kratos' character too, where it's like, you're like, dude, Kratos, smack some sense into this motherfucker. But he's like, I think it was more of him just being like, he's got to learn on his own that being a god isn't all it's cracked up to be. He's like, because Kratos had to learn it on his own, where he was like, I'm a god, I can fucking create war and do all this shit. And then everything bad happens in his life. And he's like, Atreus needs to, I think it was more of he needs to learn this shit. I can't just sit him down and tell him he's going to go, fuck you, Dad. I don't care. I don't believe you. And I think they just did a really good job with that. Like, because I was pissed off at him. I was like, fuck you, Atreus.
Oh my god, yeah, no.
Shut up, you little bastard.
Dude, like, even though Kratos was like meh about the blacksmiths and everything, like I still felt for them because it was just like at that point Kratos realized like, oh, they're allies because they've given us good weapons and armor this entire time, and now that Atreus was just being an asshole to him, he was like, they don't deserve that. Yeah. Like he even says that at some point, he's just like, there's no reason to make enemies out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and God, and I love that whole segment and whole story beat, because eventually it does get to the point where it's like, because of Atreus being arrogant, they're sent back into hell, and the entire time that they're in hell, like Kratos is like, I hope you fucking learned your lesson.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where the trust starts, clicking between the two of them, and they start understanding, like Atreus understands, like, okay, I should listen to my dad if he's got shit to say, or if he's running things, he's running things. And it's like the mutual trust between the two. And then fucking leading up to the end because the entire game Atreus keeps asking, like, oh, can I carry mother? Can I carry mother? Like, can I carry her ashes? And Kratos just keeps telling him no. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's such a small conversation and it happens so quickly, but it's still integral as to what's going on, what their goal is and everything, and the trust between the two. And then like that final moment, like closer to the end, where they get to I can't remember the name of the fucking the realm, but they get there, and Muspelheim, I think that's what it is.
I think that's the one. Yeah. And
they, after they climb the stairs and everything, he's like, hey, I want you to carry this.
Yeah.
And it was just like that moment, I was like, oh my god. Yeah, and it was just like, that's when like that was the trust, like that was like the rite of passage of trust between Kratos and his son. And like even Atreus himself was like, wait, what? Really? Still? Now? Yeah, and then and then Kratos goes in the whole thing where he's like, I've got nothing left to hide, and all that, and he kind of lets his past go. Which, holy shit, fucking Blaze of Chaos, I did not see coming.
Neither did I. Yeah.
Oh my god, like I did not think that they would dig that up, and they fucking did, and that was so fucking well done.
Yeah.
And that whole segment was just like getting to know an old friend all over again. And I love how they just give you fucking like cannon fodder basically after you get them. They're just like, oh, we'll just throw these weak ass enemies at it so that way you can just fucking flail around and throw the Blades of Chaos around. a fucking madman.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect that, and I was just so happy when that happened because it was just like, and it was just such a good callback to the old God of War games where it was like, hey, the axe changed it up, and you're not going to get the same experience, but here it is. You're getting a little bit of the same. I mean, they changed it up a little bit, but it still has that feeling of like just swinging and flailing and beating the fuck out of everybody, and I was just so happy about that. I was like, God, I'm so glad they fucking did this.
And a lot of the combos are the same too.
Yeah.
Like they kind of kept a lot of the combos of how they were in the old games in with this one, and that's why it felt so familiar. It was just like, yes, this again. Like,
yeah.
But they still later on, like as you level up the Blades of Chaos, it's like, they throw new abilities where it's like you could fucking like scorpion them and then bring them over, or send them into the air and slam. Well, I mean, you could always do that, but just like some of the different abilities, it was like, and even with some of the like the light or heavy runic attacks, it was like, these are throwbacks to previous combos from the older games. And so it was like every time when you found shit, you're like, I remember that combo, and it's like, I'm gonna use that fucking thing for a while, just for nostalgia reasons, really. But they also still threw in like new stuff too, where it was like he uses the Blades of Chaos to fucking create a fucking lava, like a lava flow in front of him or whatever. And so it was still like using old tools, but kind of taking new spins on them because it's like, well, it's a fucking new God of War game, so let's just like, how would the Blades of Chaos be in this time?
Yeah, and you have the two brothers kind of upgrading it in the way that they want to upgrade them and stuff, so it's in their take on the blades and being like, oh shit, look at these things.
Like their reaction of just being like, whoa, wait, what, this isn't from this world. What the fuck is this?
Where the fuck did you get these? Damn. I mean, those characters are really a great addition, and I think all the characters are pretty well done. Like, I really like the majority of that. Actually, I think I liked all of the characters. I didn't, really take issue with anything. Like, they all worked well with the story, and they had their little comedic, like, well, those guys are kind of the comedic outlet where it's like, let's see these guys, and one swears every other word, and the other guy is, like, squeamish, and he's like, don't bring that near me, and it's so fucking good. But the characters are so well done, and
And even though like it's kind of over the top for them, but it works somehow because it's still like it's still a fucking video game, and there's got to be some interesting characters that kind of know that you can. Much like what we've been saying with a lot of the everything of this game, like everything is so distinct, like everything is so like when you hear them or you see them, you know exactly which character that is. And it's never a point with this game where it's like, it's generic guy number 4 I get to run into.
No, definitely not. Yeah, there is no generic character in this game at all.
Yeah, other than the enemies.
But the enemies. But
other than that, like it's still fine.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people complain about how they were kind of disappointed of the lack of bosses, but I felt that was fine. Like there was never really a point where it was like, boy, I wish there was a boss fight here. Like it just seemed like always to show up at the right time. Because if you just have like a fucking boss rush, then it kind of becomes the old game, right? Like, and it's like that's just not what they're going for. It's not. Kratos isn't there to fucking kill every single god again. He's there. He's learned his lesson. He's kind of doing his own thing now. So I think with there being like really only 3 or 4 boss fights. I mean, there's the first one with the stranger, which we find out it's Baldur later, which is that was
so good. Oh my god!
That for me, that was the first instance where I was like, "Holy shit!" This whole single camera thing is awesome.
That was so crazy. Yeah, that was insane.
Because the transitions with everything was just like so good. And that was the first that because Atreus is in the house, it's like Kratos can be God. He can be a god, and because he knows that this guy's a god, so it's like, well, I'm gonna fucking do whatever the hell I want. I'm gonna go full bore on my strength.
Yeah.
And yeah, that whole fucking, so yeah, that got me into being like, oh my god, like the fucking camera's great. Fuck, I lost my train of thought for the.
We were talking about like the lack of bosses and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's the first one, and then you got Thor's siblings. You got his two sons that you fight. And then you have Balder again, like closer to the end, and that's basically about it. I mean, like, you know, they if you wanted to find
the
a
dragon
boss as, oh yeah, the dragon too. Right. If you want to also define a boss that like has a health bar, a giant health bar on screen, like, I mean, there's like the trolls as well, but trolls are like whatever. Like, you see them enough times that's like I almost consider them a regular enemy.
Yeah, they're almost like a mini boss or something.
Yeah, that's how I always kind of felt with those. Yeah, I didn't really feel at any point that was like, man, there needs to be more bosses, because they just want to pace it out enough where every god in Norse mythology does have their moment to shine, and isn't just like thrown in there just because.
Yeah, exactly. I think with the story that they were creating, like if they kept throwing these bosses and other characters in, it just would have felt like too much. It just would have been like, all right, come on, like we don't need all these fucking characters, and then you're just like what is this, Spider-Man 3? Like, we don't need, you know, like just give us a coherent story and good characters. Like, I don't want them throwing all of this shit in here just for sake of having more bosses, you know. And the bosses, like, I think the boss battles were fine, and they were super fucking rewarding because of the cinematic sequences and stuff. So it's like the reward to see this, like, and if they did too many of that, then it's just like, okay, you're giving too much of a good thing to people, you know. Like, that's kind of not throw all of these characters at people and just keep it more simple and keep it more flowing, you know. Because I think it would have taken out of the flow if it's like, oh, here's 25 boss battles for you, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the lesson here.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, probably like I have no issue with the amount of boss battles. The only issue I have was just the amount of like the trolls and stuff that they did throw at you. I was just like, oh, okay, it's another fucking troll. But like, I was never like really.
Yeah, I got to a point too where it was like, oh, another fucking troll.
Yeah.
God damn it!
Like, and because just fighting the same kind of like, they're the same character, whatever, with a different kind of ability, like a little bit, you know, where it's like, okay, this guy has a ice ability, this guy has a fire ability, you know. And they're throwing that at you, which is fine, but I think it was just like, for me, there was just too many of those moments where I was like, okay, I'm sick of fighting these fucking guys. But yeah, I mean, it's still fun, but it was just there's a lot of those moments. But yeah, I mean, I think honestly that's probably one of my only issues with that game. Like, I don't have like very many issues at all with that game at all. Like, I think for the most part, it's nearly a perfect game.
Because I kind of go back to what you were saying of like having so many different boss fights, that was kind of what God of War 3 was. Yeah, it was just like after you beat one boss, then it was like you'd go into you'd open the door and there'd literally be the next god, and it's like, here's the next problem. Here's the next problem. It's another fucking god that you need to go and kill for some reason because he stopped you from getting from point A to point B. Yeah, and it's like, okay, so I got to do this again. Whereas this just felt more like, okay, it's dead. It's fucking dead. It's dead, Jim. Yeah. Let's move on. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot about the dragon, because the dragon, that whole fucking
oh man, that sequence is so fucking good.
And I'm glad they did that, because, you know, with the very first trailer that they had a fucking dragon, and you know everybody was thinking like, I want to fucking fight a dragon as Kratos. Like, you know that was coming. Oh, so yeah. I'm glad that they at least like fucking incorporated that into the game.
Yeah, they incorporated it, and not only did they incorporate it, they fucking did that cinematic sequence so damn good. Like, oh man, God, that part is just so fucking amazing.
So I'm wondering because like the rest of the game, you're freeing dragons, you're freeing the different dragons around the world. I'm hoping, God, I'm hoping, that the next God of War game, I hope it keeps track of stuff like that, like similar to Mass Effect, like all the little side quest shit that you do. I hope that fucking carries over into the next game and somehow makes an impact. Like, I think that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
But I also understand if they don't do that. Like, because that's like another whole level of detail and continuity that they'd have to keep track of to, like, for the next game. Because then that just means, like, the 6th God of War game is like gonna fucking blow up even more because if they have to keep track of
keep building
everything
the story.
So I totally understand if like that's not what they want to do, because that would be like too many levels of keeping track. But if they fucking do it, then cool, man. Like, sweet.
Yeah. I wonder if they would just do the whole like assumption that you just completed all of that.
Yeah,
and then
that could be...
and then build from there. But because I mean, I think it would be cool, but I think that would just be a lot of work for them because of the intricate story that they're trying to create and all of the background and stuff like that. Like that's got to be a lot of fucking work.
Yeah. Fuck, man. Jesus, like what more is there to say? I don't know.
Should we maybe like say like our favorite moment?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hard, man. I have a lot of moments.
Yeah, it is.
Hold on, I've got a list here. Hold on. You, if you could think of one immediately, while I'm trying to pull up my list, because this is when we get to our Game of the Year discussions. There's a lot of them that are God of War. I tried to not make it focus on God of War, but then when I played it on my second playthrough, I was just like, God, there's a lot of good moments in here.
Yeah, there are so many good moments. I think my favorite is the first meeting with the stranger because the way it introduces the world so perfectly and introduces what they're trying to go for. Like it just does everything, and it's just like, and since you haven't seen anything like that like my mouth was open the entire time. I'm just like, holy fuck. Okay, now I'm flying through a fucking side of a mountain. Okay, now I'm going back up, and it's just all the camera angles just turning and moving, and it's just like, holy shit, man.
You're moving parts of the earth.
Yeah, you're like, just like fucking, you're destroying the earth while you're beating this dude to a pulp. It's like, and it's also like, who the fuck is this guy? Like why is he here? Like it just opens that whole, like, it's such a good intro into being like, okay, I gotta fucking play this game, man. I gotta get through this, and I gotta. It's
the first like roadblock of the entirety of the game. That's like, okay, here's like the villain that's going to be stalking you all throughout the game.
Yeah.
But I also agree, like, because not to say that that's mine, but but there was reading up on the behind the scenes. There's a whole series that is going on the PlayStation YouTube. They got a playlist of like Corey talking about certain segments of the game, and there's one specifically on the stranger, and he says the pacing of that was like the introduction of the stranger was at the right time, because it was at the time where it was like you're used to the combat and like you have an understanding of the combat and the mechanics and how the game plays, so that it just throws you into this like, hey, here's a fucking boss fight that like, it's like, I hope you're ready, because now we're gonna fucking throw this at you now that you're used to the game. It's like, here it is, and it's so fucking well done. That is one of my favorite moments that's on there. But I would say my absolute favorite was when Atreus calls the world serpent during the fight with Baldur. When they're fighting on the giant that fucking Freya like resurrects and controlling, and and it was one of those moments where it's like Atreus is so well like being able to learn from Kratos of like you adapt to the combat, you adapt to like to get the upper hand, like even if things are down. That was that moment where Atreus shines, where it's like even Kratos had no idea what the fuck was happening or what was going to happen. And it's like, but Atreus took everything that he learned from this entire journey and calls that fucking world serpent. And it also gives you a sense of like, I mean, yeah, you've seen the world serpent many times prior to that, but it also still gives you a huge sense of scale of that game, of just how big things are. Because when that fucking world serpent comes and he fucking just bites the head off that giant, it was just like, jeez, like that is the most epic fucking moment in that game, and I loved it. Like that was a moment where, because I was playing alongside with my girlfriend, because I already brought her on this God of War journey, might as well fucking bring her along for this one. That was one where it was like, when that moment happened, when we saw Atreus call the world serpent, we were like, oh shit, like we both were like, holy shit, he fucking totally did it. And it just like bites that head. Like we were both like, oh fuck yeah. Like we were like cheering and everything, like we were actually cheering like throughout the entire game. Like we were pretty quiet and everything, but that was the one moment where we were just like, fuck yeah, like that was awesome.
That was so fucking, I mean, that whole final battle was amazing and just really well done. But
that is probably one of my favorite moments in that entire game. I mean, I got many more, but like that is the one, that's the number one part that like even on my second playthrough it just gave me goosebumps, and I was just like, that's still fucking awesome to watch.
I mean, pretty much every like story beat when it gets more cinematic is just really fucking amazing and well done, and just there are so many moments in that game that could be your favorite, even the more simple ones where it's like they meet Mimir and stuff like that. Like those are that's a really good moment, and the way that he has to chop his head off and shit, it's just a really awesome fucking moment. Like
because Mimir is like starting to dig up Kratos' past, and he's just like, I'm going to cut off your head now.
It's just all those little story beats are just so well done, and there's a lot of moments that could be anybody's favorite. So
like even just like the similar to what you're saying, like the little stuff of like Brock, where he ate fucking ungrateful. That was like a little great moment. Yeah, it's just like, it's so subtle, but you had to be paying attention during that little moment. And there are some great little moments, but like some of the main story beats are like definitely my favorite. But I've got like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moments that are on my list for my favorite video game moment of this year. Because it was hitting me more of being like, oh yeah, no, this was a great moment when I played it through again.
I'm definitely gonna, before our game of the year discussions, that I'd have to play God of War again. Just so
I've played it more than enough, way more than I needed to. Honestly, I mean, I've said previously that like, the next step would be the God of War difficulty, where it's like the hardest difficulty. But I'm like, I'll just save that for some other time.
That might be something you're like, okay, a couple years down the road, you're like, you know what, I want to explore God of War again. I'll play it on the hardest difficulty, and then you play a little bit, and you're like, nope, I can't do it. It's too fucking hard.
I'm going back to Cyberpunk.
Jesus.
But that's I guess that'll do it for our Dissects of God of War.
Hell yeah, man.
It's just a fu'cking good game. Just overall. I with thinking about the next game, because obviously they've already said like there's obviously gonna be more. Fucking just like, I hope that this game took 5 years to make, and I hope that they take all of the energy that they had all throughout those years, and I hope it still remains for the next one, because like my next fear is like, okay, yes, they have an engine, yes, they have a story, like all these things, so it's like, yeah, that'll kind of cut down on time, but I just hope that with like, say if like 2 or 3 years from now they announce it, I hope it's like another 2 or 3 years until it finally comes out, instead of like, so I just hope that they really take their time, like they did with this one.
Oh yeah.
So that way it's more than just being like, oh, it's as good, like it's like fucking, I don't know. I mean, I looked at Doom 2016 and I was like, this game's fucking awesome. How can they make it better? And then when at QuakeCon, when they showed Doom Eternal, I was like, they fucking made this game better. I don't know how, but they did. They fucking were able to work around it. And so for something like God of War, it's like, man, this is such a fucking perfect game. How do they make it better?
Yeah.
And and like, that's, I hope they get there.
I definitely think they can, and I think just from all the passion that I see that they put into that game, like, it's not just a game that they made because they wanted to make a shitload of money. It's a game that they just truly everyone cared about.
Yes.
And like, even you could just tell when, like, he released it and he's crying, and stuff like that. Like, you can just tell how much work and effort these people put into it, and I don't think that they're going to want to skimp out on another one. I think they're going to want to put that much effort into the next game and just keep it rolling. And it's probably not going to take as long to make this next one, but I think they're going to put just as much effort and work into it, and because and I am just like, how the fuck are they going to top it? Like, how are they going to top it? I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what the addition or little change they're going to add to this game, but I'm excited to see what they come up with, because I can tell that there's just a lot of passion involved in the creators of that game.
Number one being, don't listen to the fucking people. Don't listen to the internet.
Don't.
Just do your own thing, man.
Yeah, I definitely think with a game like that, like, they're not creating like PUBG or anything, who needs to listen to their audience because they're sitting down and putting 500 hours into it. This is a game that don't listen to someone else because they don't like what story you've created, like, they can't stop your story. They can't, like, and that's the main thing with this game. Like, the gameplay is amazing, but it's the story that's driving you to play it, so they just have to really just hit with these story beats, and I don't know if they're going to try something new with the cinematography or what they're going to do, but I'm excited to see, because that shit is
I
so
hope
good.
They don't change the cinematography.
Yeah, I hope they don't.
I'm totally okay if they just keep doing what they did.
No, I'm okay with that too, but I just want to see, like, the next step that they, like, because I think they'll keep it the same, but I just want to see, like, because I think they're gonna try to be like, hey, we got to do something to, like, do a little step up from what we did, like, not completely change it, but do something a little bit more that's like, holy shit, now look at this game, like, so I'm really, I'm truly excited to see what they come up with.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, nice, man. Hey, it was fucking finally getting around to doing this.
Seriously. It's a long time coming.
And we'll probably gush more during our Game of the Year talks. I mean, probably repeating ourselves, but fucking whatever. At least we'll have a third party with us that'll finally experience it as well.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see Darren's feelings, just because he's
playing it without playing the older games.
Yeah, and he never liked God of War game. Well, I mean, I don't think he ever really put any effort into playing them. Yeah, but like, he doesn't like the idea, and he doesn't like the character of Kratos. So I'm really interested to see how he feels about this game.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Well, thank you everyone for listening and or watching. We'll be doing hopefully more Dissects of other games.
You definitely should
soon. Otherwise, we'll see you during our news segments.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.